Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. This will be a fairly rapid pace, 25 minutes, and there will be recordings and distribution afterwards. Topic, of course, is driving your business during trade tariff wars, as we've all heard about every day, whether it's on TV, online, or in conversations with friends and family. So, how do you drive business today? What are the thoughts? What are people's current sentiment and sentiment, not sediment, and what's going on? So, 2 seconds on us. Been around since 71, Canadian based. Our focus, insight driving profit. The point is, what insight do you need to actually drive the decisions you make? And times like this can often lead to paralysis when people are not sure what to do because what is the US going to do next? What's Canada going to do next? Our political environment where we're having election in Ontario, we're having a federal election at some point in time, leadership race, and so on and so forth. Often it leads to paralysis rather than action. So hopefully some of this guidance will provide the confidence after talking to some 3,500 people in the past 12 days to give you the confidence to make some great decisions. We work globally. This is a Canadian focused presentation. We also look at some US as well to see how they're feeling towards Canada, and we'll go from there. So in the news, this is from a couple days ago, but Donald Trump, we got terrorists, we have patriotism, we've got obviously the Israeli war, we got Trump again, and we got AI. Those things are constantly in the news. But Trump and terrorists happen every day. It's not just in Canada anymore. It's going obviously to China, to Mexico, and to the EU, and to everywhere else around the world, including South Africa. So it's a big issue. What we look at here is between February 4th and 8th, we asked a question relative to 2024. Over the next 12 months, how often will you purchase brands, products, and services that are made in my community, made in Canada, made in the US? In the US, you can see they're all positive. Even made in Canada, 25% more likely to buy something in Canada because we have a great relationship with them. Let's now look at the Canadian side. Made in my community, up 50 points. Made in Canada, up 53 points. It's a huge difference from a year ago. And then made in the US, down 14%. The question is more, the same, or less. And 20% of Canadians will avoid entirely. So there's obviously a passion and emotional link to this. And the point there is, what will their intentions lead to actions? And is there anything Canada can do, Canadian brands can do, brands in Canada that are from elsewhere but employ Canadians and use Canadian goods to produce? What can we do as a group to actually drive and secure revenue profits during a potential tariff trade war? Because obviously our biggest trading partner is the US, and that would not be good for Canada. So if we look here overall, February 2025 to 2029 is a unique point in Canadian evolution given the trade tariff rallies with the US. We don't believe the US or Donald Trump's leadership will stop this. We need a strong position on Buy Canada. Right now it's Buy Canada, avoid US, and we'll get into why it should be Buy Canada on the positive side as we go forward. We also look at what the mindset is of Canadians. Obviously, we've been looking at this for a long time. One of the things we look at is political leader in my country. So we ask a long scale. We've done this back to COVID days. Most concern in my lifetime, 41 points. So COVID hit about 70 points, but there's concern there. There's also love there. Most concern in my lifetime for Canadian leadership at 16 points, but most concerned, extremely concerned, or very concerned is 2/3. So we're not far off the US, just not as strong on the leadership side. My ability to afford to live day to day is the one that we look at constantly to see if there's a change, because this dictates what they're going to purchase, what Canadians are going to purchase, what Americans are going to purchase. See, in both cases, about 1 in 4. That has been consistent since 2019. It was a bit lower in 2023 at 16 and 57% respectively, but within the same range. It's typically 1 in 4, 1 in 5 that are actually concerned day to day. And there's also a lot of news in the news out there about AI. So how concerned are you with the impact of AI in my life? Like 1 in 8, 18% and 12%. That's the concern level. So you might hear in the press every single day, but there's really not that many people that are that concerned or that it's going to lead to dramatic changes. People do believe at 69 and 67% that it's going to have an impact, but possibly not as much as possibly the news would want you to believe. Impact of inflation is there, personal financial position. We ask it a bunch of different ways just to see where it sits. And it's about 1 in 5. So there are typically 20% paralyzed due to economic conditions. Paralyzed, not a nick, meaning they can't spend what they want and they have to suffer every cent. Whereas there's more concern overall in that 60% range, but people seem to be doing and living with how they have been since 19. Even only the only time it had significant impact was in that March, April 2020 period. Once the government came in both Canada, the US, and globally with some relief efforts, it returned back to normal. So again, if we look at that economic condition, it's not as great as often some people would think, and it's pretty constant at about 1 in 5. Now let's get into why we're here. Diving into tariff situation. So the journey is February 4th to 11th, we talked to 2,000 people, 1,000 people in Canada, 1,000 people in the US. Then in the last 3 days, and we've talked to another 1,200 Canadians because we asked some more questions. We did some testing on actual creative to see what the response would be. And we'll take you through both parts today. So the content is what percent aware, what percent is currently aware, what actions have they taken to date? Because it's easy to say they're going to do something. Has anything been done? In the past month, purchased a product made in a specific country, in my country, not purchased a product because it was where it was made, and then future intentions. We look at unaided, what products, brands, or services did you buy in 24 you will not buy in 25, a very leading indicator to what might happen since it's open-ended. So awareness of the trade wars is a phenomenal number. 95% in Canada, it was 94% last week, gone to 95% across all age groups, across all income levels, across kids in household, foreign-born, non-foreign-born, every different over 50 demographic segments, it's 74 and 95%. So both sides are super aware. 74% is a huge number on aided awareness. We expected it more like 35 in the US and 60 in Canada, but this is obviously a day-to-day conversation in all areas, city, suburban, rural, from coast to coast. What action have you taken in the past 12 months? So have purchased a product because it was made in my country. So 63% have purchased a Canadian products made in Canada, 34% in the US. One of the things that is constantly out there is the US is the most patriotic. Well, right now that's changed a bit, whereas Canadians are rallying together and buying Canadian made. So as a brand product service, what are you doing to making sure that you are relevant in that Canada conversation? And the most important thing is it's up 11% in the past week, from 52 to 63%. That's just in the past week. So to put that in perspective, that's about 4 million Canadians new to the market buying. So momentum is going higher. I don't know where the number is going to reach, but 94% are aware and 63% have acted and stated they purchased a product because it was made in my country specifically. If we look at have not purchased a product because where it was made, 61% in Canada, 42% in the US. And this does not mean US not buying only Canada. Obviously, there's China and other countries. And this does not mean Canada not buying the US only. It means they're not buying because where it was made in other countries. So it's a big number as well. So country does matter. How does that fit into marketing? The other thing is, what products did you buy in 24 that you will not buy in 25? Nothing, none, don't know, no change. 1 and 2 have no change. So even though everyone's aware of it in the US, of the tariff and trade wars between Canada and the US, they're not acting specifically against Canada because of that, because they're actually leading the charge. Whereas only 28% will do nothing, none, don't know, no change. So 3/4 are continuing their efforts, where you can see the other 7 and 10 are actually changing behavior. So how do we get in front of that? How do we make sure we get our fair share of that change behavior? And if large tariffs come in across the board, how do we focus and maintain the demand structure in Canada by actually attracting Canadians' goods and services? There's a massive opportunity there. In every downfall, there is always massive opportunity if we can take advantage of it. Let's look at intended actions for 2025. Unaided, what products, brands, or services did you buy in 24 that you will not buy? So made in Canada, this is did you buy? 1% bought made in Canada. Made in the US, 44%. So Canadians are making conscious decisions not to buy anything made in the US. So of the Canadians, 44% I did not buy made in the US, and Canada only 1%. So while awareness is 74% in the US, the negative side is only 1%. Awareness is 95% in Canada, and 44% are not buying made in the US specifically. What else are they not buying? So you see here general statements of what they're not buying is anything US, made in the US, American products, 21%. It's a general catch-all. They're also saying They're going to not buy Netflix, Amazon, Nike, Starbucks, Coke. And some of the comments were, I'm going to try not to buy Amazon. I'm going to try not to buy as much Amazon and so on and so forth. But if you look at 2.8%, it might not be a big number, might not seem like a big number, but it's a million Canadians. So if these people are acting and we see the increase from 52 to 63%, this can have a dramatic impact on the negative side to some of the American manufacturers, products and services. But they also employ a lot of people. So it's not good for Canada for us to pull out of people that are actually supporting Canadians. Um, if we take the other side, how do we actually promote Canada? Forget about not. Let's focus on the positive. Let's buy in Canada. So that's really where we see a massive opportunity. But 2.8, 2.7% are big numbers. We'll see what actually happens. That's their intentions right now, and they've been following through with actions early in the presentation. So there's an opportunity for the brands and government of Canada to change the narrative away from don't buy American made to buy Canadian, made in Canada, visit Canada. The fact is, positive sells, negative never sells long term. There's an opportunity for all of us that actually represent help, agencies that help and brand directors and properties to drive Canadiana. Every single tourist attraction, every single province, every single city has this opportunity. This is crucial as it will create preference for made in Canada long term, not just short term, not just during trade wars, but if you can actually instill that emotional, it's the one time that we know other than Canada Day that you can really push forward. So consider the impact of putting in position made in Canada first, that we can, as a rally cry for products, services, online retailers, destinations, every touch point. It doesn't mean don't buy American. It means let's make Canada first. And I'm not trying to sound like the other south of the border here, but there is a tremendous opportunity that we can actually do great things in any time to drive this forward. So we ask unaided. Unaided is a key question because the researcher doesn't get in the way. So prompted open end, what will you not do or stop doing due to the current and potential trade wars between the US and Canada? Open end. So if 10% say the same thing, it's a niche. It's an issue to be monitored. If 30%, it's an issue. Threat of becoming a crisis, be aware of and follow closely. Very few things hit 30%. It's a crisis. It's mass consensus. It's part of everyday conversation, every water cooler, every dinner, every breakfast, every coffee shop. This is part of the conversation. It happens during the Olympics. It happened during COVID. It happens very rarely at any other point in time. So I'm not sure where it shows up, but let's look at what actually happened. So we took all the open-ended responses, which were some 6,000, and broke them down into major themes. And you'll see some major themes break down. First thing is avoid Canadian groups, goods. This is among the US. 3% said that, unaided. 84% of Canadians said that. As we said, it's well over 60%. It's a crisis. The fact is they're avoiding US goods. How do we get Canada in front of it? And they will stop purchasing, won't buy anything made in the US ever again. Now that's what they intend people to change. I'll never support anything American again. Boycotting all US made items. I'm done with US goods. I'll go to my way to avoid US brands, avoid buying all US imports, stop buying USA products. That's what you see. 84%. Phenomenal number. And the point there is, if we just focus on anti-US in Canada, they're still buying Chinese, European, Mexican, everything else. If we focus positively on buy Canada, that means buy Canada over everything else, which is a much more positive, resilient, long-term message. Look over here at the US side, stop buying Canadian products, drink less Canadian whiskey, something here on maple syrup. The point here is a very small percent, but there are specific verbatims against it. So you can see here, unaided, they are going to stop, and there is a groundswell. If we also look at shopping actions, buying products from made in Canada, up 73%. This is the opposite side of the coin. So 73% state they're going to increase their purchasing. So if you can't be found online, in store, on package, on the event, on your tourist decoration, in the tourist destination, in the travel agent, in the travel aggregator, you're going to miss out on a massive opportunity. And also recommending products. So it's not only the fact that people are going to buy products, they're actually going to recommend something. So you have a double-edged purchase plus amplification. There's so much good behind this, and there's no harm behind this, so we strongly recommend this. We've already shared this next page, but have purchased made in Canada the past month, 63%. That's up from 52% a week ago. Have in the past month or attend to do so. So there's an incremental 19% moving from 63 to 8 and 10, which is a phenomenally high number that is actually going to purchase Canadian. So are you out there? Are you acting? If you're not acting, it's at your own peril because others will be. And the fact is the time is now. It will not last forever. People will close their minds because there'll be too much Canada everywhere. There'll be a sea of sameness. So make your impact now, make it soon. And if you need help, we're here to help you. How about made in the US? I've not purchased a product because it was made in the US. 42% in the past month, 68% intend not to buy US. So the point there is it's due to the leader identifying tariffs, whether it happens or not, it's already in our system. It's already thought of, and the fact is it's something they can do. Let's focus on the Canada, not the anti-US is our strong recommendation. How about made locally? Big thing, up 57%, or 57% so far, up to 80%. And we'll get back into, is Canada stronger than locally, stronger than provincially? And we'll see some interesting facts have been consistent for the last 2 decades. What other actions or intentions have Canadians had? Look at package to see where the product is made. 58, 6 in 10, and 8 in 10 intend to do so. So is it clearly marked on pack on your online portal? Not just for products, but for every service. Search to see if the product was made before purchasing. 55% and 77%. A massive number are doing that to select. If it's hard to find, they're not going to take a long time. Discuss not buying American-made goods with a family. It's part of every day. You can't get 95% awareness without that kind of talk, but we know it's in every part and it's going to be continued. Search online to see who owned the company. Now, that's a lot of work. 44% have and 68% will. The fact is, these are all actions that give you opportunities. If you don't have it and you look at the shelf right to the left here, there's nothing standing out as Canadian. That doesn't mean you Canadian flag everywhere, or do you in the short term, or do you in the long term. The point is you're missing out on something as a quick identifier to say, buy me Canadian. And what's going to happen in March or April, maybe everyone in the world has it on it. But a lot of people are paralyzed right now, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this session. So this is a time-sensitive opportunity for companies to act now or lose the opportunity to differentiate yourself by doing a better job positioning your support of Canada, Canadians, and made in Canada products. It doesn't mean you have to be all made in Canada. Like made in Canada means 51% in Canada. Product in Canada means 98%. Made in Canada is fantastic. Just employing Canadians is a great thing. So you don't have to be Canadian to do everything. The fact is you have a choice to actually differentiate yourself or stand out against the competition. If the competition is doing it, you better be there because that's a point of difference right now. It is a tiebreaker. In the next coming weeks, we'll look at its ability to defend against price reductions, and there will be in some cases. Action the past month. This is Canada. Purchase a product made in the U.S. to avoid made in Europe to avoid made in the U.S. 3 in 10. How about purchase a product made in China to avoid made in the U.S.? 29% and 53% intend to do so. And this is what they talked about. The fact is the actions and tariffs taken are going to send people into the arms of China. And I don't want to get into political things, but we can see here that why would you buy China instead of the US? But that's how angry people are. And the fact is I understand that anger. This is what's actually happening. So the point is that's why made in Canada is going to be way more important because right now we're losing sales to Europe and China. We have the opportunity by focusing on Canada to capture those. So it's strongly recommended to focus on the positive made in Canada by Canadians, avoiding the trap of any negative tone or message of not USA, not American, because we'll capture this as well. Canadian brand serves as a once in my lifetime opportunity to actually capture this. So for the past 2 decades, including yesterday, the consistent, strongest origin of product, brand, or service, and this is debated constantly, and we've done so much testing on this, we tell them the answer, tell clients the answer, and they still want to do it because they don't believe it. But the strongest performance made in the country, this is in every single province, every single region, every single language, including the Quebec market, which people always go, it can't be in Quebec. The second strongest is locally made, because if it's locally made, it's in the province. The distant third is made in Ontario, or made in Manitoba, or made in Saskatchewan, or made in Quebec. It's strong, but not as strong as Canada. It's not as universal as Canada, and most people do not know what the flag of their province looks like. So for Canada, this includes every province, including Quebec, and French-speaking in Quebec and across Canada. So this is the impact of where product services are made. So again, we look at where the intention is. So in the next 12 months, made in your community, it's always been my first choice, 22%. Province was 10%, in Canada, 28%. So again, it's higher in Canada. US, 2%. This is among Canadians, 1,200 people. Buy much more, a little more in the next 12 months, plus 50 here, 49 in province, 52 in Canada. and 12% in the US. There's still a portion that love products and services of the US, and that'll continue for sure in the future. You look at first or more, 80% in Canada, 72% locally, and 59% in province. So we're going to pick something. We say Canada, that's our recommendation. Activate locally, be Canadian, but local is also very positive and prominent. By much or a little less, 0, 6% less than the province. Not sure why. There are people that have moved, and then 1% in Canada, whereas at 38% in the US. This number will drop. We will monitor it, but it's going to drop over time, in our belief. I'll avoid it entirely when given the choice, 18%. So you can see here there's 56%. And then there's about one in four that aren't going to change. But you can see here, made in Canada, what's it look like? The Canadian flag. How do you demonstrate that you have part of Canada with you is a key part of what's going on. So recommend action all products and services. Focus on we are Canadian, buy Canada, support Canada, search out Canadian, whatever the right terminology is for the brand, product, service, or destination. Canadian brands, products, and services, and all levels of government should prioritize the positive of Canada versus the rhetoric or any association of guilt to avoid US, anti-American, anti-US, not US, anti-Trump. Leave that to the airways. Leave that to politicians and newspapers and online portals. If you want to sell a brand, product, or service, focus on positive. Negative advertising does not work. It has not worked in 3 decades. It will not work. People do not respond well to negatives. They respond very well to positives. So again, we are Canadian, buy Canada, support Canada. So that was just on products. Now let's look at travel. Avoid travel to Canada, 7%. Don't visit Canada. I will avoid traveling to Canada as much as possible. Flying on Canadian Airlines is now off my list, 7%. So less than 10%. It's not even an issue yet. If you remember back to that 10% issue, or be aware of the 30% issue and the 60% crisis. But 43% identify avoid travel to the US immediately. That's unaided. No more vacations, avoid traveling, cancel my trip, avoid US even for business. I don't believe that, but that's what the person says, so maybe they can do that. Not traveling to the US unless absolutely necessary. No more cross-border shopping. This doesn't mean air travel. This means cross-border shopping. This means cross-border events. Weekend trips. Won't even fly through a US airport. Again, you look at that, I'll find vacation spots in Canada, Europe instead. Here's an opportunity for destinations to be there. If they cancel trips, there's a big void on trips and money to be spent interprovincial outside of the province in Canada for sporting events, concerts, festivals, and so on. And here's where we go to. So travel starts close to home. Don't wait. Invite Canadians now to visit. So travel intentions in 2025, this is as of yesterday. So 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Travel in Canada up 51%. Travel in your province up 58%. Most travel, 2/3 of travel is interprovincial. That's why that number's so big. Stay in a hotel in Canada up 44 points. Travel to the United States down 29%. This is an unaided basis. You can see unaided and aided, there's going to be a big swing. Now is the time. They're making their summer vacations now. And if they've canceled, you should be there. Change travel plans away from the US. Have in the past month, 28%. Have or intend to, 56% in 2025. So the point is, there is going to be impact. Canadians are acting already and intend to. Now let's look at people, that's intention. How 22% have canceled a trip to the US already? That's a big number. And the point there is, even though we're 1/10 the size of the US, they're speaking with the wallet. Now we have the opportunity in Canada to actually where they're going to spend the money in Canada to travel, because people love experiences, people love live events. How are we actually going to encourage them in to see what's going on? So recommend action on travel. Focus on Travel Canada, Explore Canada, search out Canada, buy tickets for, visit. Now's the time. It's not just across Canada, but provincially or specific destinations, every attraction. In addition, all events, sports, music, culture, charity, lifestyle, entertainment festivals have the opportunity to invite people to explore and have a fantastic experience. Invite them in. Focus on the positive experience of connecting people, not anti-American rhetoric. Again, focus on the positive, tremendous opportunity. How about the live? And I've talked a lot about Live will Thrive. Overall response, Live will Thrive in Canada. Invite them back from prior years now. Anyone who runs an event, anyone who has a property, you have events, even if it's in November, invite them back through your database, through your online channels, through your web, through your Instagram, through your TikTok. Invite them back. Going to festivals in Canada up 43%. So if you're a summer concert, or a summer festival and you've yet to put out your first communication, we would strongly recommend you do it in the next week. We strongly recommend you do it last week. Now is the time. Concerts up 39%, sporting events up 38%. So 4 and 10, strong growth opportunity. So Canadian events, live cultural community can thrive, as can travel. There's a real opportunity here for all the brands, all the products and services associated with it, restaurants associated with it, car rentals, hotels, airlines, trains, buses, all the different things have tremendous opportunity. But select the narrative that welcomes. People don't want large crowds, or sorry, about half the population do not want huge crowds. They want to be with someone enjoying. They want to be friends and family. The fact is they want to see happy, friendly faces and a smaller group, not 20,000 people. The point there is show people having a great time. If you want to, invite them back. That's the biggest thing. People that are in mosh pits, people that are um, in the square want to be with a lot of people. There's more that don't want to be, but those people there are having the best time they'd be nowhere else in the world. So don't be afraid of that, these images, because you're going to capture those people that still want live. So not all audiences thrive in a mosh pit. How to create an event that's both inviting and exciting. So we're not saying don't do this and don't show this. Don't make it your only forum and lead to more showing people being happy. And you have to invite them back. A lot of people just talk about themselves and they never say, come visit, come now. We'll make it easy for you. Come in, we're awesome. The point is invite people wherever you are, invite them in. Whether you're in a retail store, an online portal, or an event in Kamloops, invite them back in. Let's look at the next one. Sorry, we already did that one. I apologize. Supporting Canadian local products, 11%. Said a different way. Go back, 84% say they're avoiding US. Right now, unaided, supporting Canadian local products, 11%. It's a big difference. And there's really the story is we need to switch that narrative. But you can see supporting my local economy, trying to buy more Canadian goods. This is the opportunity for governments, politicians, brands, products, services, destinations to go this way. And it's 2%. So you can see the American side doesn't have, they're aware of it, but they don't have the same anger towards us. Why do we wake them up? Let's not make the US angry at Canada. Let's just be positive to Canada. They'll respect that. And it won't start a consumer war. Let's keep it at the political level, not at the consumer level, to make sure we optimize what's going on. So current sentiment is 84% avoiding the US goods, while only 11% are focused on buying made in Canada. That is an opportunity. That's where the government should wake the F up and actually do something useful and actually invite people in Canada to stay in Canada, to buy Canadian products, to buy Canadian services, to make us Canada first. It's a good narrative, and Canadians are doing it anyway because they've raised that situation. It's imperative embracing change the narrative position of buy support Canada, as this position positively raises all Canadian products and services and differentiates it versus products made in the US, China, Europe, or elsewhere. It's a much bigger halo. Right now, it's 84% on the anti-US, 11% on the positive on the Canadian side. We'll continue to monitor it. Success will come if we can invert that and have 84% on the positive made in Canada and 11% on the rhetoric. Politically charged, less than 2% in both cases. And they make it political. We're not going to get into it. It's not a big issue, so let's not worry about it. But in summary, avoiding goods and services from the other country, 3% versus 84. Avoid travel to the other country, 7% versus 43. Support host countries, processors, 1 versus 11. The fact is, massive change. And you got to remember, this left-hand side, the US, 74% are aware of it. And we export more goods and services to them than anywhere else. So we do not want to be anti-American. We want to sell Canadian products first in Canada as the US is selling US products first in the US. I don't think you can argue with that sentiment. The pro-Canada gets us away from the China European imports as well. So now we did some testing. What can you do about it? Like, don't just talk, don't just consult, but let's go do some testing. So we picked some stuff that's in the marketplace just to see, does it really matter? Does the front-facing consumer stuff matter? So we want to look at how little money you need to change to get the desired change in attitude, emotion, and behavior. Obviously focus on behavior, but this one's highly emotional, not just attitudinal, but emotional. Yesterday, just one comment, flags fly off store shelves in Ottawa as Trump's comments fuel wave of patriotism. So anything to do with a flag is very popular. And the point there is that's not typical. There are Canadian flags out there during the Olympics, maybe this Thursday during Canada-US's Four Nations face-off, but there are not that many. In this case, sales drive what's actually happening, which is very interesting. So what we did here was we 200 Canadians per concept. Concept one, brand plus message. Concept two, brand plus Canada message. 2 dimensions. Makes you feel better toward the brand, emotional, encourage you to consider purchasing using behavioral. So look at what actually happens there. So Tim Hortons Cup versus celebrating 150 years, even though it happened a few years back. Makes you feel better toward the brand, encourage you to purchase. Which one? Up 38% for this quick change, and purchase up 46%. It's pretty evident how strong Tim Hortons, everyone can argue, or no one can argue against Canadian brand, Canadian strength, Canadian pride. Maybe not owned by Canadians, but certainly employs thousands and tens of hundreds of thousands of people. And the fact there is, if you look at it, that's quick change can massively change. It just says celebrating 150 years. It doesn't say they're Canadian. It just identifies, even at that time they might have been. It's very simple changes have dramatic positive impact. Now is the time for action. Don't sit there paralyzed. Let's go to Sobeys. Sobeys ad versus Team Canada Hockey. Feed the dream. Up 60 points, up 56%. This is 80 versus 20. 80% prefer this or makes them feel better, 20% here. This encourages you to purchase, again, in the 70s. This does not suggest ignoring initiatives, rather prioritizing Canada now. If we look at here, Community Action Fund, great initiative versus Team Canada, up 38%, up 38%. So it does not suggest ignoring great initiatives, rather prioritizing Canada now. And not only Canada, you have other programs in there, but if you have assets, they're Canadian assets, bring it to life to demonstrate your support of Canada, and that will drive it. That doesn't say don't do the Community Action Fund. It means for 3 weeks, for a month, maybe do less of it and do more of the Canadian side. How about Rogers Get 5G mobile plan for $55, a price offer versus Rogers proud partner of Canada's team on Four Nations face-off. Up 20 points, up 14 points. Just with this simple picture, they're activating their assets. So product's crucial, but there's also opportunity to complement and build your consideration. Doesn't mean only do this. It means do a combination of the two. Activate your assets. We made this up. Both pieces were created. We just slapped an ugly Canadian owned and operated flag on it. We can do much better than that. Over here, we did 2 things, Community Action Fund and 100% fresh guaranteed, or your money back, which we know is a really strong proposition. Just by putting a little flag on the Sobeys, it's up 8% and 4%. It almost competes just by putting that. How much better could you do with great agencies and great internal structure identifying what happens? So IMI is not recommending slapping a flag on without thought and effort. The 100% Canadian link needs to be optimized for each product and service, but you don't need to do that much. Here you've got their glorious French fries versus the French fries in the shape of a Canadian flag. Up 18%, up 20% with that simple movement. McDonald's employs thousands of Canadians. It's not Canadian owned, but they're making Canada happy by, or the Canadians predisposed by just recognizing the Canadian aspect. Big Mac, product hero, best practice versus the Big Mac, not without Canadian beef farmers. No beef patty in there, their primary product. 28%, 32% more likely on the right-hand side. So the fact is an existing creative you can repurpose. There's many ways to bring Canadian alive. Efforts need to find optimal greatest impact. Let's look at Harvey's. Customized Angus burger from your couch. The delivery Angus burger, their lead burger, versus the Rockies, Great Lakes, our burgers, all 100% Canadian. The fact is up 62 and 58%, the biggest change. Product hero with Canadian, no Canadian flag. The fact is they talk about Canada. So authentically communicating product hero plus Canadian shows the best practice today. What can you do for your product or service? The last one is the cup is coming back February 24th, meaning not just the program. People are excited about it versus Canada. The point is it's pretty equal, but roll up the rim to win. A program which was the most successful program we measured for 30 years in 40 countries. 50,000 different activations, the most successful we ever measured. And the fact is, if you have a great program, run it. Doesn't mean just only be Canada. It means have a combination, but make sure you actually build up the Canada side of it and what can they do to actually support with winning Canadian products. So rather than focusing everything on Canada, integrate multiple messages that drive impact on attitude, emotion, and most importantly, action and purchasing. And the time is now, not wait a month. Your agency should already be in your doors with ideas. Your internal team should be in your doors with ideas on what actually happens, what should be done. So best practice for driving impact could be package, could be the product your hero, could be Canadian made, could be 100% Canadian, could be Team Canada or Team Canada. What can you activate? And there's many, many more. We're out there testing right now to learn more and more from this type of work. So to go forward, go-to-market recommendation. It's clear that brands, products, governments of all levels, hotels, resorts, attractions, online services from Canada have a once in a decade plus opportunity to promote Canadian first and avoid the trap of negativity. If your agency walks in with negative, I would ask them to politely come back with some more positive thoughts. Avoid anything anti-American, avoid the US, guilt associated with US products, services, and focus 100% of efforts and attention on why Canada, buy Canada, support Canada, while not getting caught up. The point is, leave that to politicians, leave that to news channels. You're a brand, product, and service that needs to build emotion and behavior near term and long term. Negative advertising or guilt-based sentiment will not drive long-term or even short-term impact. We've tested hundreds of campaigns like this. They don't work. A portion love it and a portion really despise it. Long-term, it actually impacts your brand negatively. So the final thing is IMI's recommendation: time to act is now. This is a unique and compelling opportunity for your brand, product, service, or property to authentically and emotionally linked to Canada, Canadian, made in Canada, 100% Canadian, by Canadians, not possible to Canadians, for Canadians. Each brand opportunity is different, but authentically, authenticity and action are crucial now. You need to act now or you're missing a massive opportunity. So thank you for your time. I know I went a bit longer. I don't see any questions. If you have any, please send them to me, send them to Vanessa, send them to the team, and we're happy to answer. And there'll be more to come on this as we continue to follow along. Thank you very much and have a great day.